What we wanted to achieve was a connection with our federal elected officials. I think what it was going to do is provide an opportunity for these guys, for our Congress people, to get to know our membership, get to know the issues that are important to Columbia and the surrounding region, and the things that we're going to continue to advocate for.
At our time together on this trip, we all really shared that goal and started to share some ideas of maybe next steps of just starting the ball rolling, even with little first steps.
It has helped me more in the relationships that I built with the people that flew with me in and out.
It's a kind of a quick out and back trip. It's a 2-day trip. We leave early in the morning from the Columbia Regional Airport. We got into D.C. about lunchtime and then headed straight over to the Capitol.
My favorite part was when the senators and representatives and their staffers would come to a little room in the Capitol building and talk to the 10 of us and listen to what we had to say, give us their contact information for follow-up.
What people don't realize is that we had private meetings with our 3 elected officials that represent Columbia. And why that's important is that you have a private audience to be able to talk about the things that are important to Columbia, things that are important to the business community. We talked about everything from the financial services bill that was on the floor in the House at the time, and some of the transportation issues that are important to Columbia as we move forward in fixing our infrastructure.
I was pleasantly surprised by the access we had to real decision makers and the access we had to centers of influence for business initiatives.
Very seldom are you ever going to have that amount of time with a federal elected official. We had our own private chauffeur. We had a shuttle service that kind of took us around from location to location. We had a nice dinner at a Hill establishment, and then headed over back to the Capitol, have a private tour given by Congresswoman Hartzler. When you have a U.S. Congressperson or a United States Senator giving a private tour of the Capitol, you get to go places that are really off limits. We got to go on the House and Senate floor. We got to go out into the Speaker's balcony, which is hardly anybody gets to do while they're in session. What made it also special was that the tour that Congresswoman Vicki Hartzler gave us was the first private tour she had given. One of our first meetings of the day was with United States Chamber of Commerce, and we met with some of their chief lobbyists that work on separate issues on the Hill.
Their engagement with us was really nice to see, and you just don't have that opportunity to have an audience with those individuals almost on a one-to-one basis.
We had a chance to meet with Justin Lamadou, who handles financial services issues, so we were lucky that we had 3 of our bankers on the trip with us, so they got to ask some real relevant questions to their industry. We also had a discussion about trade. Obviously, trade is important. It's with tariffs and free trade versus tariffs, and what that means for the U.S. economy, as well as what that means to Missouri. I think what we're looking for is essentially getting a briefing from the experts that see what's going on the floor of the House and Senate, and see what's going on in the regulatory climate in Washington, D.C., and let our membership know exactly kind of the behind-the-scenes look in how the issues are getting completed and getting finished and across the finish line. At the time, Bayer was in the middle of acquiring Monsanto. Monsanto obviously is very important because they're headquartered in St. Louis, and part of our discussions revolved around exactly what that means for Missouri, what that means for the city of Columbia, and what that means for our university. Obviously, Monsanto has a relationship with the University of Missouri that's very important to us, and we got to essentially hear a briefing on what their plans were moving forward and the ways that the Columbia Chamber could help facilitate what would happen after the acquisition occurred.
I would highly recommend it. It was great. It was a great trip. It was great for networking with your local people, and it was great for putting a face of the face of Columbia in front of our elected officials.
I would highly recommend people looking at getting engaged in this trip. It seems intimidating. It seems like, well, what am I really going to benefit from that going to Washington, D.C.? But I think, again, the relationship you build, the boots on the ground of being in Washington, D.C. and being part of what's happening there is great for our professional development individually, and it's great for our community.
Looking forward, we're going to see those elected officials come to us more, asking us questions, wanting us to help them get engaged with the city and the community, and kind of being the front line of who they go to when they need help.